I know his tenure is done in Miami. I know this past season did not go very well between the two parties involving the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler. But we have to say thank you because of all of the effort and all of the just high level basketball that Jimmy Butler gave us. Because I know, despite the recency bias of how bad things appear, Jimmy Butler was an all time Miami Heat player, and he has some of the greatest performances in Miami Heat history. And I'm here to break it all down on this episode of Heat Digest and really just thank you, Jimmy Butler. So before we get to all that, remember to still subscribe to the channel if you're a part of the 85.5% currently watching this video, not currently subscribed to the channel. We do appreciate all the love and support, so thank you guys. But now let's get to it and really just thank you, Jimmy Butler. Now, I know the last 4 months, 5 months between Jimmy Butler and this Miami Heat organization have not gone according to plan. There's no other way around it. Currently, we're sitting at 500, actually a game above 500 after last night's win. Again, 1-0 without Jimmy Butler, we can say. But again, this season did not go as planned. Jimmy Butler, from this past offseason up till now, seemed like the bridges started to burn, and at this point, if not up till about 2 weeks ago, the bridges had fully burnt to the ground, and it didn't seem like there's any way for them to recover, and obviously they did not, as now Jimmy Butler is a part of the Golden State Warriors, and he got half of what he wanted. Obviously, he was pushing to be traded, forcing his way out of Miami, and particularly trying to get to Phoenix. Now, he didn't land in Phoenix, but he did end up getting traded, and again, to the Golden State Warriors to play alongside Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and under Steve Kerr to hope to try to win one more championship for Curry and Kerr, obviously, before they go out into the sunset. And honestly, Jimmy Butler did get paid. We did break that down 2 years, $121 million. He got absolutely paid. Good for you, Jimmy Butler. You were not going to get that money here in Miami due to recently what has happened. It involved between you, Pat Riley, and the rest of this organization, which is unfortunate. Again, we've vocalized it on this channel so many times in the past, how we don't want to see Jimmy Butler exit Miami, how we all love Jimmy Butler and what he has done for this organization, because again, whether we love him or not at the current moment in time because of recency, he has, if not the majority, if not a lot, of the greatest performances in Miami Heat history, and that is not an exaggeration. Now, it all started back on June 30th of 2019, and if you don't remember this was a special moment. After a 1-year tenure in Philadelphia, things failed, and Adrian Wojnarowski tweeted this: Miami is finalizing a sign and trade with Philadelphia to acquire Jimmy Butler, league sources tell ESPN. And again, back in 2019, after the 1 year in Philadelphia, it only took one meeting between the Miami Heat organization and Jimmy Butler to come to the conclusion that they wanted to be partners in the National Basketball Association, and Butler wanted to be a part of that organization. And again, ever since then, it seemed like it was sunshine and rainbows, honestly, because Butler was special in Miami. Multiple time in the race for the MVP, in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, multiple time All-Star with the Miami Heat organization, averaging 21 points per game with this Heat organization. And again, that's not even the special part. If you go and we look at the actual playoff performances from Jimmy Butler, this is when he did sign with Miami back in 2019 with Pat Riley, where he does look oh so happy again. We haven't seen that look on Jimmy's face with involving the Miami Heat in a long time, it feels like. So again, this is cool to go back and look at. But again, the idea of it, of the reason we're bringing this up, is because of what we got in the playoffs, and specifically some of the performances we got from Jimmy Butler in those playoffs. Now, obviously, the stats greatly increased, and again, these are some of the greatest performances not only in Heat history, but specifically for Jimmy Butler. And again, these are just overall performances from Jimmy Butler. It's not in any form of order besides obviously it's filtered by points. So at the top, we have his 56-point game performance with 9 rebounds and 2 assists against the Milwaukee Bucks in 41 minutes. And again, that was his best performance because he did have 56 points, but he has multiple triple-doubles, multiple 40-point games for this Miami Heat organization in the playoffs where, again, he was the best player on this team. Tyler Hero had not fully developed yet. Again, if you guys, and it's hard to keep a full 360 really perspective on this and try to give Jimmy Butler his flowers, and again, not just full on say, but he had Bam Adebayo, he had Tyler Hero, he had Duncan Russell. Please remember, Tyler Hero is having a career year this year in basically the majority of all offensive categories that we really track and keep an eye on to really justify how good a player is. Bam Adebayo obviously is not having the greatest year this year. I'm not going to argue that he's having a breakout year and Jimmy Butler didn't have this. Jimmy Butler definitely got a good Bam Adebayo, no way around it. He also had Goran Dragic as well as other really good players involved in this Miami Heat team, but by far and away, Jimmy Butler was the best player in a Miami Heat jersey for the last 5 to 6 years, and it's not even really up for conversation. And when we look at these performances, specifically the ones in the playoffs, it's unequivocal. 47, 9, and 8 against the Boston Celtics with 4 steals and a block. 45, 5, and 5 with 2 blocks. Again, the list goes on and on and on. If you drop down a little bit against the Los Angeles Lakers, which we're going to highlight specifically in just a second, a 40-point game with 11 rebounds, 13 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Jimmy Butler was in a class of his own for a stretch of time where he was doing it all. When he was playing the LA Lakers, and we'll actually get to that now because there's no reason to just glance over it and not fully just highlight how great Jimmy Butler was in that series in the finals against the Los Angeles Lakers and Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Yes, it was a COVID year, and there's an asterisk next to that title. That if there's an asterisk next to it, why weren't the worst seed? Like, what are we talking about here? We're playing professional basketball against other professional athletes on the highest stage possible. Yes, I understand there are no fans in attendance. I understand that. But what happens when you can't go home? You can't sleep in your own bed. You have to sleep in a hotel, in a resort in Orlando, Florida, which is not home for the Miami Heat. I know it's the closest one to home. I understand that. It's a valid point. But again, no one's at home. No one's been home. No one has seen their family. No one has been able to live the normal life they're accustomed to. The world was literally shut down, and we attempted to still play NBA-level basketball. Admit that, despite that. And Jimmy Butler, in the midst of that, came out against this LA Lakers team and pushed this Miami Heat team to an NBA Finals appearance. The second one in which he got this Heat team to, which again, look at this roster. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Jay Crowder, Kendrick Nunn, Bam Adebayo, who was 6th on this list, by the way. Andre Iguodala, who was aging at the end of his career. Kelly Olynyk, Myers Leonard, Solomon Hill, Goran Dragic, Derek Jones Jr. This is not a great roster. And again, obviously, if Tyler was at the level he is at now, it's a bit different. But that was not the case. And Jimmy Butler got this team to the NBA Finals at the age of 30. And again, 26 points, 8.5 rebounds, almost 10 assists per game, and 2.5 steals with almost a block per game. Jimmy Butler, the reason he was leaning on the side, I can't think of what it's, the little barrier, if you will, on the baseline underneath the basket, when he was exhausted and he had nothing left to give, bending over, putting his head down, trying to find some air because he was single-handedly attempting to keep this Miami Heat team with a pulse, keep them alive and a chance to win a finals with him, a part of this Miami Heat team. As when he came here to Miami in 2019, he said, that's the goal. You're going to get a championship out of me. I want to bring a championship to Miami. I want to party down Biscayne Bay with this organization. Obviously, he fell short twice, but again, he was special. And again, that wasn't the only time he was special in the playoffs. That was just a finals example. If you look at the series against Milwaukee in 2023, look at his points. Look at his averages for this series. In Game 1, 35 points, 11 assists, 5 rebounds. Game 2, 25, 3, and 3. Again, not the greatest game, but again, it's a hell of an effort, especially for this team. 30 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. A 56-point game, 9 rebounds, 2 assists. Jimmy Butler doing everything in his power to win games for this Miami Heat team. It was special to watch. I was thankful. I am thankful. I was thankful that I was able to witness Jimmy Butler play at the level he did. And when we were talking about playoff Jimmy and we need playoff Jimmy, we got playoff Jimmy. Basically every single time he was eligible to play in basketball games in the postseason for this Miami Heat team, we got playoff Jimmy, and we got more than enough examples to highlight like we have in this episode of Heat Digest. Again, he was special, and I know it ended incorrectly. He handled it, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, including Kevin Garnett, Carmelo Anthony, Stephen A. Smith, Shaquille O'Neal, like these credible, very credible past athletes, as well as NBA insiders and analysts. All the ones I've named have all said that they don't believe he handled this correctly. And I understand that. I am right there with them. If I was Jimmy Butler, I would have not asked for the contract extension in the offseason. And if I did, I would have done it very bluntly, behind closed doors, not publicly, with no social media knowing. And again, if it was rejected, I would have said, okay, bet. Watch this. And I would have came out and I would have dominated. And at least till the All-Star break. And I would have, or maybe to the trade deadline, I would have said, what about now? And if they shut it down and Pat Riley tells him to eat shit again, and he said, we're not giving you a contract extension, at that point, trade me. And then the dumpster fire begins, and you can set fire to everything that you want in Miami. Because again, that would be considered mistreatment by this Miami Heat team, in my opinion, and Pat Riley. Because again, if you get the Jimmy Butler we know and love, and that we've seen in the past, and he plays like that in the regular season, maybe not to the level of a 56-point triple-double or flirting with that triple-double, the 50-point or a 40-point game every night out. But again, being a substantial piece, a 20 to 24-point per game score, 6-7 rebounds a game, again, along the same lines on the assist part, playing defense, being active, you would deserve to be paid. But that's not how this played out. You made your demands early. They weren't met. Things started to crumble. You made it to the regular season. You were, you didn't do this. You were this. You half-assed effort, low effort, no effort. Okay, now we have a problem. You're gone. And that's when things really boiled over, and that's what we saw. Now, the last thing I'm going to highlight is, again, another accolade that Jimmy Butler set in the Miami Heat franchise. And again, that was the first player to have back-to-back-to-back triple-doubles, and not only just in 1 month, but in consecutive games. Now, obviously, this was back in February of 2019. Now, I will say he had multiple games where he was double-double and just very, very close to a triple-double. But again, he did have a triple-double, 2-11 against the Houston Rockets, 27, 10, and 10. Overall, a great performance. And then we played at Utah before going to the Clippers, the Warriors, and the Sacramento Kings, all on the road, where we saw Jimmy Butler post a 30, 10, and 10 game with 2 steals against the Clippers. Following that, he went to Golden State and had a 13, 12, and 11 game with 3 steals in Golden State, and then followed that up at Sacramento with a 13, 10, and 13 game against the Sacramento Kings. And again, overall for that month, against Toronto, he had 27, 8, and 10. Against Utah, 33, 10, and 8 with a steal. Overall, this month, he was another prime example of Jimmy Butler doing exactly what Jimmy Butler does, and that is flat-out domination. For the month, he averaged 21, 8.5, or 8.8 rebounds and 8.8 steals, flirting with a triple-double average. Overall, just a phenomenal performance overall from Jimmy Butler. A hell of a tenure. And again, I know it's crazy to say, but he has some of the greatest performances in Miami Heat history, and that's up in competition with Dwayne Wade, with LeBron James, with Chris Bosh, with Alonzo Mourning, with Tim Hardaway Jr., with all of these guys, Shaq. Jimmy Butler is up there with all of those guys, and I know it may seem crazy, but again, we have to give him his flowers, and we should really sit back and thank him for his tenure. I know, again, it didn't end the way we wanted, but we have to give credit where it is due. The path has come to an end, and it's time to say thank you to Jimmy Butler. Thank you, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.